We'll call the July 15th Apopka City Council meeting to order. We're going to have Commissioner Bankson do the prayer, pledge, and fact of the day.
Heavenly Father, we come before you and we're very thankful and grateful for your goodness to us. Lord, we just pray that you give us wisdom as we look at over the business of the city. We pray that you cause us as a community to continue to pull together through these challenging times and believe in the best and do the best with one another. So we thank you for it. Bless our meeting this evening in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
July 16th, 1969, Apollo 11, the first U.S. lunar landing mission, is launched from Cape Canaveral, Florida, on a historic journey to the surface of the moon. After traveling 240,000 miles in 76 hours, Apollo 11 entered into a lunar orbit on July 19th. The next day, the lunar module Eagle, manned by astronauts Neil Armstrong and Edwin Buzz Aldrin, separated from the command module where a third astronaut, Michael Collins, remained. The craft touched down on the southwestern edge of the Sea of Tranquility. Armstrong immediately radioed to Mission Control in Houston a famous message: "The Eagle has landed." Armstrong opened the hatch and spoke the following words to millions listening at home: "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." A moment later, he stepped off the lunar module's ladder, becoming the first human to walk on the surface of the moon. On July 22nd, Apollo 11 began its journey home, safely splashing down in the Pacific Ocean on July 24th.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Amendments, any minutes, any changes, additions, subtractions? Not, I'd like for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Becker,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bankson. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Edward, any changes to the agenda?
No changes, Mayor.
All right. Public comment. Susan?
We have one, and it's from Alicia Mansfield in North Ocean Boulevard in Pompano Beach, Florida. She writes, as a former recent longtime resident of Apopka, I would like to set the record straight in regards to a spurious public comment that was read at the July 1st City Council meeting. I have been made aware that this statement not only inquired of the private health status of the city employees, but also included a snarky question remark concerning the mayor. This comment was submitted falsely under my name and former address. I am quite certain the comment was actually submitted by a former friend with deep-seated issues and resentment as a weak attempt to embarrass me, the city, and those who manage it. I would like the record to reflect that I treasure the city of Apopka as the place where my late husband and I chose to live our entire married life and raised our children. Even though I've moved to another part of the state, I am confident in Apopka's staff and leaders and wish health and success.
Thank you, Susan. All right, anybody from the public wish to speak? All right. Okay, consent agenda. Anybody need to pull any of those items? Got two items on the consent agenda. If not, look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith,
Second.
second by Commissioner Becker. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, millage. Edward.
I make sure it's got the highlighted areas. And this is the one, okay. Okay. All right. Mayor, Commissioners, so tonight we have the proposed millage rate. We have to set the proposed millage rate, and that's what you have before you this evening. So I want to start out by saying we've, and for the benefit of the public, for the last 3 days, we've been through all of our budget, well, all of our departments with our budget workshops, gone over all of our lines, and pretty much a lot of detail. We've had a lot of detail, a lot of wish list items and things of that nature. So tonight, I want to go over the general fund. I will focus on the general fund because that's where the millage rate is lies. And so we'll go through, I wanted to go through quickly some of the revenue changes first, then we'll go through the expenditures overall, show you where we are between the difference between revenues and expenditures at this point, and then some of the recommendations that are in this agenda item. So the only change, I'll start with the org chart. There is one change, one significant change from that going into FY21. That is Parks and Recreation. As Brian said in his workshop, that grounds and cemetery used to be under Public Works. It is now moved under Parks and Recreation. It's a better fit for that since the parks are maintained as part of the grounds. We felt that it was better to put those work crews together so that they could do all of the parks and city grounds as one unit. This slide here, and we can come back to this when we're done, but this slide here shows you what the different millages would produce. As you can see from this slide, that the amount budgeted for the current year, keeping the same millage rate that we currently have, would generate a little over $1 million, $1.1 million. These are the different options based on the millage rates. You have the rollback rate, which is the rate that if you were to roll the taxes back would give you the same revenue that you had in the prior year. And then you can see the different millage rates from there. The millage rate recommendation that's in your packet recommends a quarter of a mil or 0.25. That generates approximately $910,000 additional dollars over the current 1.1 the current millage rate. So if you can keep that in mind. The budget calendar, as you can see from here, that we are here tonight. We are to set the proposed millage rate and make the property appraiser aware of what will go on the trim notices to all of our citizens. We've had our 3 workshops from July 13th through the 15th. So that's where we are. If you'll look, one of the things I want to kind of point out here, this is our schedule that we will follow that's required by the trim process. We have our CA meeting scheduled for the 19th, on August the 19th. So the CRA will meet and go over their budget like they do every year. And then what we're proposing is on September the 9th, we will have our first public hearing at 5:15 on the tentative budget. And then on September the 16th, we'll have the final hearing and the final adoption of the FY 2021 budget. Keep in mind that, and I've reached out to you on the date. Unfortunately, we can't have our first public hearing on our normal September the 2nd meeting. So what staff would like to do, what we'd like to propose, and you guys were good with that, was that we would move the September 2nd meeting, the 1:30 meeting, to September the 9th, and have that meeting at 1:30. And then we will follow after that meeting at 5:15, because by law we have to have it after 5 o'clock. We'll have the first hearing at 5 o'clock on that same day, if that works for the council. So what I want to do is go through the revenue side of the budget. As we talked about earlier in the workshops, you can see on the first slide you saw there's an additional $1 million based on this scenario keeps the millage rate at where it currently is, 4.0376. That would generate an additional $1 million. Most of the revenue lines on the tax side are pretty flat. We don't anticipate much change. Again, we're waiting on revenue estimates from the state. There could be some minor changes in this area, but as we get that data, we'll continue to update the budget. But currently where we sit, the utility tax for water, we're showing a little bit of an increase, quite a bit of an increase there over last year, and that's just based on projections. So the projection for last year was a little lower than where it should be. So On your licenses and permits, not a lot of change at all much. We're not really messing with these numbers. We've looked at that based on development, what's coming forward, we're kind of keeping the status quo, thinking that that's where we'll be moving forward. Again, these numbers could change between now and September, and we'll continue to update and monitor these. This is the area of concern in the intergovernmental revenues. This is where the sales tax number comes in. You can see that the state revenue sharing number, we're projecting a 25% reduction in state revenue dollars. Again, this is part of the sales tax. You can see that the local half-cent sales tax is also a sales tax number, and it is also, we're projecting a 25% reduction in those revenues as well. And so together, that's about $3 million in reduction just in those two numbers. Police Task Force Program, there's an increase there. That's kind of putting it in line with the years prior. This program is a continuing program, and so this number was budgeted a little bit lower than we've had in the prior years, so we're kind of truing that up, bringing that to in line. Charges for services, this is where a lot of the ambulance billing, those kinds of costs, or those kinds of revenues. The record storage fee, that number again was a little bit low, so that number's a little bit higher. These fees are collected and allow us to, we're allowed to use these dollars to help with record retention, record storage. As we move through the software program, like we told you, we're looking at different software programs or whatever. We want to look to see if we can take advantage of some of this funding as well, because we have some of this money in reserves where we built this money up to see if we can use some of this money to help with that asset program as well. So we're looking at everything. Lien searches, that number was just a lower number, doing a lot more lien searches right now. Seems to be, a trend, and so we pick up a little revenue there. Granted, not a lot, but it is a change. These are some of the numbers I want to focus on that I think are very important. Dispatch services, we provide dispatch service to some other cities, to Maitland and Eatonville, and we have a 2% escalator built in there, or CPI. I have it at 2%. I'm not sure. I think it might be a little bit lower than that. I don't think CPI is going to be at 2%. But we'll be monitoring that as we get that number and get closer to the date that they renew, that their contract renews for the new year. Orange County Services, you can see that's showing about 20%. Our number for last year, $427,000. This is the contract area, the payment that we received for the contract area that we've really worked hard and beaten up Orange County to make sure we get our fair share of those dollars. Our number was a little low for the previous year, so there's a little bit of money to pick up there. And that number could change a little bit as well. I think that number might be a little bit low, but I think it's pretty close. Ambulance service fee is a huge area. As you know, this is an area where we've been working really, really hard to make sure that we have this number in line. I will tell you that you can see that we had $955,000 in 19. We projected 1.2 in the current year. We're projecting 1.6 in FY21. So that's a significant increase, almost 35% in revenue. I think what's important to note here is, and the chief and his crew plan to do a report for you in August. They're going to bring all of this to you in August for the change from NEB to the Change Health that we went to. They're going to be bringing you all of that to show you the collection rates, to show you the billings, to show you the different types of collection models, ways that you can do collections on those accounts. We'll need to look at how we want to pursue collections on ambulance billing going forward. But they've done a lot of work here. One of the things that you'll see, there's actually about $1 million swing from NEB to the new company when you look at just billing. The new company is billing the ALS and the BLS. They're billing those calls the way they should be. NEB was billing all of them all calls at one fee or at one service type. And so you'll see that in the presentation that they're going to present to you that shows that the billing we've picked up a lot of revenue because we're billing the ALS and the BLS calls the way that we should be billing them. ALS, you provide more service than a BLS call, and so there's more revenue generated from that. So I think that's a good thing. Sean and his team have worked really hard, dug into this, and we have some benefits in this budget year, as you can see, about $400,000 additional, more than $400,000 additional revenue just in this line. So this can help with some of the shortfall that we've had in another area. I do think the 1.6, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, Becker brought this up too at one of the workshops, I think the 1.6 is conservative. Again, we'll be watching that as we get closer to September. We may pick up a little more revenue right here based on those numbers. And after they do their presentation and you see collection rates and you see everything, this may be a place where we pick up a little more dollars. Other public safety charges, I know it shows a significant increase because you're going from 1,000 to 20. This is just getting numbers in the right place. We've had some of the revenues, we budget them in one place, but we break them out into more detail. So I wanted to kind of change this number because you can see that CPR fees, when we do those classes for CPR, we had the 20,000 in that line. Basically, we're putting it up into our birthday fees, our camps, that our public safety does. This is where that revenue is recorded. 911 Orange County distribution, that number was budgeted low. And again, I think that we're still a little low. I think the 95, you can see we were 116. I think the 95 might be a little low, but we're waiting on some projections from them to kind of see where that see if we might get some additional dollars there as well. Recreation program activity fees, down, we have it projected down almost 17%. This is a hard one. This is very hard to project because we're not sure exactly what programs will be allowed, how our programs will come back, how fast they'll come back. But I will tell you that I think this number is pretty good, kind of with what we're looking at. But keep in mind, this number is also related to, there's an expenditure side to this number. If we don't, a lot of these revenues, some of these revenues that you don't collect, you also don't you don't have the expenditure side either. So it's one of those where we'll kind of monitor it or whatever, but if we're not collecting, if we don't reach this number, there's some expenditures on the other side that we will not be spending as well. So they kind of have a little bit of a relationship there. The fines and forfeitures, no changes. We're not making any changes to this line. As you know, the courts have been closed, been a lot of issues here. I think there's a backlog. I think this is going to catch up. And so I think this number will stay pretty close to where we were last year. Miscellaneous revenues, interest income. We had a good year in 19, $256,000. We budgeted $110 for this current year. As you know, with the market and where we are, I think we're going to be, I don't think we're going to hit the 256 mark, but so there's been a little bit of a reduction here. I mean, a little bit of an increase from the prior year, but I think that, as you can see, that number was low. I think that the current year that we're in will be higher than where we are budgeted for that number. The county tax collector, this is the income, the interest income that's collected from the tax collector. When the taxes are paid late, there's an income that comes from an interest that you pay on that if you pay late. We've seen some of that. I think you're going to probably see a little more of that, where some people are delaying a little bit in their tax bill, and there's an interest income side that comes on that as well. If you look down to insurance proceeds, there's an increase there. Recently, at the last meeting, if you recall, we did a piggyback contract with a company to try to see if there's some lost revenue dollars that we weren't going after that they're going to be able to go after for us. So I think you'll see an increase here. This is conservative. I think you might even see a little bit more here because they can actually go after, when we've had an ambulance that's been in an accident or something, they can go after lost revenue, downtime, and we can't do that with our insurance company. So they can go further into that. And that agreement is if they collect any, then we collect. They have a portion and we have a portion, so we don't pay unless they collect. The sale of cemetery lots, you can see that number's up. We've had that presentation, and we've taught some future changes coming to that we'll have in an upcoming meeting. So there's a little bit of an increase there, but I think that's just mainly because the number last year was a little bit lower than what we anticipated. If you go down to disposition of capital assets, that is for if we sell any property or we have any things that may be coming. The city center is one of those places. If we sell some of that land next year or anything else that we have, this would be an area where we're anticipating that we could have some of that. Again, like Mayor talked about, if we've got some surplus lands that are up for sale as well, could change these numbers a lot, so. Contributions and donations. This account is, as you can see, in the prior year, we had $243,000. This again is kind of truing up that number to what we've been seeing now that we have things in the right lines. This is kind of truing up where that revenue will be. This one is one we'll have to watch because this donations contributions can change every year. They're never consistent. So we'll be watching this line before we get to September to make sure that's where it needs to be. Settlements and rebates, that's your credit card rebates that we get back on our P card. And then that's also the settlement that we have with Progress Energy, as you know, that we receive each year, a $54,000 contribution from our franchise agreement. And that was over a 30-year period that they would pay us that settlement dollar amount. Transfers, no change in the transfers, because as you know, we're currently under a study to make sure that this transfer number is correct, that what we're transferring from the utility side to from the utilities to the general fund, there's the correct study for this number. So that number could change when we get the study, could go up, could go down, depending on when we get the study back from the company. So with that in mind, last year we budgeted about $50.4 million in the current year that we're in. The projected year, we're based on these projections about 49.5. So you can see it's about a little more than $900,000 loss or reduction over the prior year. Keep in mind that's you have a $3 million loss just in sales tax. So you can see we've done really good with all the other fees and stuff to try to make up some of that shortfall between ad valorem and some of the other revenues, ambulance fees and things like that we've looked at to make, and as you know, we've increased our ambulance fees. So you can see that all in all, that's where we are from a revenue side. So we're about just under $1 million short from the revenues from the prior year. On the expenditure side, and these numbers reflect what you saw in your workshops, they do not include the wish list items. And if there were any small changes made between the workshop and today, they're in here. Those are small changes. It won't be anything major, but if the department had a small change, they will be included in here. You can see in the mayor's office, it's up 26%. Keep in mind, we moved a receptionist position from administration to the mayor's office, so that was a big reason for the increase. Legal and risk, as Michael talked about, $318,000 increase. Most of that was related to property and casualty insurance premiums. We're working right now. Jamie has a bid that's ready to go out this week to try to see if we can't find some savings here, some potential savings here in our insurance premiums. Administration, you can see my line is down. Mine is down because we moved a person out. And as I talked about, we did move a part-time person in. So that's the difference you see there. The city clerk is down again, and as was explained through the workshops, due to this is not an election year, so we don't have those costs in the budget for 21. Finance is up $57,000. Jamie explained to you her contractual services and her line items for her increases. Not too significant, but you can see those items in there and from her presentation. Human resources the same way. I talked about we had a position that was upgraded to a benefits specialist so that we would have someone that could actually work on our benefits for our employees and our retirees. So that's why you see a slight increase there. IT, information technology, Rob explained as he went through his budgets. He's down to $54,000 overall. Some of that's due to intangibles and some software that he bought last year that are not included in the current year. The other general government, this is the synthetic TIF payment that we're hoping will be gone after 21, and that's money we can put back in our budget. So this is the thing looking forward that maybe this will go away. I separated it out because it used to sit in Jamie's budget, and it wasn't fair to sit in her budget. So she worked to get it separated out, which is true. It shouldn't be in hers. And if you can see that it's showing a $92,000 increase from the prior year, 66%. So it was about $137,000 was what we budgeted in '20. But if you recall, we had to come back with a budget amendment because that wasn't enough. Because as that area grows, they get that, whatever that increment is, we have to pay that to them every year. Well, that number is a lot larger than 137, and I don't recall exactly what that number was, but Jamie, do you remember the total?
66% over the previous year of 137. It was $211,979 this year.
Okay, so that was a 211, and we have 230 in this current year. That's probably not enough, but we've gotten with the property appraiser, and they were asking for that number so that we can have a better number when we come to the September meeting. So we've reached out to them to get a better number. Again, this will go away once that's finished, and what we owe on that is about a little less than $800,000, right?
But
757, and that will be paid
But the
off.
makeup of that particular deal is, yeah, it could increase year over year based off of that tax base in that area. But if that increases quicker, it's paying it off faster.
Correct.
Now, our annual expenditure is higher on an annual basis, but it pays it off quicker in theory.
Right.
Correct? Right.
Well, that loan was made up of, they got the impact fees in that area. Whatever we collected in an impact fee, they got that. And then
I
they
forget what
got,
the makeup was. There's an overall liability that the city had, and then
Right.
they would get an annual payment based off of what you're describing. But really, it's not like they get that for perpetuity. It's you get whatever the deal makeup was, that value, they get this annually until it's paid off.
Correct.
Right, yeah.
right, and there's 800,000 left. So here's, as you can see, there's 200, whatever this comes out to be. It's going to be maybe almost, not quite half of what's left, plus whatever impact fees are collected in that. But what I want to point out is when that goes away, that frees up those dollars that we can use in our budget, in future budgets. Down into the public safety section, the fire department, they went through all their budgets. The difference between, if you look in these lines, the fire chief's budget is down $100,000. If you recall, he did a kind of a reorg within his administrative team and put on some division chiefs. He put more division chiefs on there instead of the deputy chief. So that's reflected that's what's reflected there. The suppression, you see that number's down, and then the EMS number is up. Keep in mind that's because as firefighters become paramedics, they move out of one budget and move into the other budget. So that's what the majority of that change is, because in fire budget. In the chief's budget, police chiefs didn't change that much. Field services and support services, very similar situation. People move between. We had people that moved out of one into another, so that you have a reduction in one and you have an increase in the other. The field services is where most of the vehicles are, so that increase would be the vehicles that the chief talked about for his current staff or his current officers, and I think there were 8 in that fund. Then the crossing guards, there's an increase there. We had a change to our crossing guards. We went to $13, I think. Yeah, we went from $12.50 or $12.50, I think, to kind of be a little more competitive with Orange County. Orange County is higher than, I think a little bit higher than that, aren't they? Like $13.50, right? Almost 14. So we're bringing ours closer, and we got them. This gives them up to 13. And then dispatch, it was very small. Not much of an increase in dispatch. Community development, planning is down, and if you recall, Jim, when he talked about the incubator, the 180 that was in the incubator has been removed from his budget for the coming year, and then building was a very small, not a very significant increase. Facilities maintenance, the public services side, we had a lot of roofs, if you remember. We had roofs that were put in there, flooring and roofs that were put in that were in the current budget we're in. So they brought those forward into this next year's budget in case we don't do them in this current year. They were hoping to plan for them the next year. But again, this we'll be watching too, because if we've got funds at the end of this year, maybe this is these roof projects, we add them back and get them done, and then they won't be in the current year. Fleet maintenance, the majority of that, Charles, if you recall, Charles did his budget. He had an $80,000 vehicle, the truck, a 1990 truck that was on its last legs that he wants to replace. So that was what the majority of his was from his 149. Keep in mind, too, these also had software. A lot of these budgets in these areas had the asset management software. We plan to make some changes to those, so you'll see some of those. You'll see some reductions in some of these before we get to the final. Parks and Recreation, this is where I talked about cemetery and grounds becoming part of recreation. Used to be just recreation, now it's Parks and Recreation. Overall, Parks and Recreation budget is down in total, and a lot of that is with Brian being able to consolidate and move some of his grounds people together between the athletic complexes and the grounds. That's where you see a lot of this savings. The number that you see in here, I think it's important to point out, the $168,000 increase that you see in athletic complexes versus programs. I think I had, that's the inmate program. If you recall, we're moving the inmate program into the correct fund. It was in the streets fund, but he's using the inmate program in his area. So that's what you have some of the difference in there is related to that. And then he also, if you recall, in athletics, he had park enhancements. He talked about a consultant to look at some park enhancements. And again, we'll be reviewing those as we get to the next budget, or as we get to the final budget. This portion at the bottom is important. You can see there's not much change in our debt service. So 2.9, still about 2.9. Mayor was talking about there's some debt that we could pay off, potentially pay off, that would reduce that number if we get some sale of some other assets, and we elect to do that. That would be one of the places you'd have some savings in here. But I think that's good. If you look back, we were at 4 million, we're down to 2.9. So that's good as we get to the future too, with some of the big major capital needs that we may need, will be freed up for debt service if that's the wishes. And then the transfer, this is very, very critical. This is what I was talking about. This is the transfer that goes from the general fund to the streets fund. And because the sales tax is down 25%, the transfer that we give to the streets is going to be down 25%. So you can see, and that's a pretty significant amount for the streets fund. So, and when we get to the hearings, the final hearings in September, we'll have better numbers and we'll know exactly where we are with gas tax and that. So at the end of the day, when you look at all the departments, all their submittals, everything but their wish list items, we come to about $51.4 million, or almost $1 million more than the prior year. So if you look at it from an overall scenario, we're short $1 million in revenue from the prior year, but we need $1 million request more to provide the service level that we're providing. They're in turn leaving you with right at a little less than $2 million gap based on what we've seen through all the workshops. So with that being said, we have to, I guess, like I said, tonight, you set the proposed millage rate tonight. So one of the recommendations or the suggestions that staff is looking to is that in accordance with the truth and millage requirements, you must set the proposed millage rate tonight. We have to let the property appraiser know by the end of the month. And then you can go up, you can go down. So when you set it tonight, wherever you set it tonight, that's our ceiling. We can go down from there at any point between now and the final hearing, in September, which is the 16th. So keep that in mind as you move through this process. One of the things we're looking at, and I'll tell you this as we move, just so you have this information as well, the budget includes 11.5% increase in health insurance. We are really working with Michael and Jamie and everything. We're really working hard to see if we can't get another quote from another pool that may be better. This is a big number because the health insurance overall for the city in total, just the city's portion, is right around close to $3.5 million. And then the employee has $1 million portion roughly around there that they pay as a dependent coverage because they're part of this. Fee increases could be passed on to them as well, or would be passed on to them as well if that's what we do. So I think it's important for us to look at everything we can look at. If there's another pool out there, we're going to get a quote from them. We've been putting information together to see if there's some savings we can do here. 8% increase in liability and property insurance. So that's another thing the bid's going out, we're gonna see if we can trim some off here. So every little bit helps. There is a 1% cost of living adjustment in here across the board for all employees. It's built into this number that you see before you. Again, we trim off some, if we can trim some more out of the budget between now and then, or if we get some better revenue numbers, maybe that's an area we can look at. But there is a 1% cost of living across the board for everybody that's in this current budget for the employees. So with that being said, I think, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer any of those questions. I will tell you that the recommendation is that staff is recommending that a millage rate, that we raise the millage rate 0.25 mills, giving us that additional $910,000. Again, keep in mind, we can come down, but that gives you that range or whatever. Should we need to add things? Should revenue numbers come in worse than where we are? That's still a possibility. Keep that in mind. So that's kind of the recommendation of the staff.
Questions?
And thank you for doing the percentages. In addition to COLA, what was kind of the general philosophy on merit pool for the departments? Obviously, with wages, salary, and wages being the most significant cost to the city out of the general fund, what was the general direction there?
Commissioner, what do you mean? Like,
So you said you did 1% across the board COLA, right? Cost of
Right.
living. But did you do a merit pool? Remember, historically speaking,
we've done merit.
Apopka's been, you show up to work, you get a certain % increase. And so I wanted to make sure that we didn't go, was your approach to be more conservative on the merit pool front?
We didn't, actually, there is no merit built in here. Normally, we have a merit built in that we put in 4%, somewhere around that, but we have a range where you can earn 1 to 6%. Each employee can earn 1 to 6%. This does not include that in there. This includes 1% across the board. So instead of a merit this year, because of the times we're in, we've recommended that we would give everyone a 1% increase. At least, they have some kind of a CPI increase. But, and keep in mind for each increase that we go, it's about $275,000 additional. So, but right now, and we're, like I said, we're still waiting on revenue numbers. Maybe there's some places we can still trim and help this number. So we're reaching out to our colleagues to kind of see what they're doing too, other places. So
Yeah, and
we're
to your-
further along than most places, I'll tell you that. A lot of places still don't know. They're telling us they don't know because they're not at this stage where we are. But we'll continue to monitor that too so we can have that information as we get closer to.
Yeah, and to your point before, and we discussed it in the past 3 days, is there might be some favorability on some of these revenue line items that will kind of soften the blow a little bit.
I'm hoping, that's what I'm hoping.
And then two, again, just as part of this trim process, we can set it and always go back down if we so choose. But just again, to level set, the state of Apopka has always historically been the lowest in terms of millage. And we still are. I mean, I kind of pulled Orange County, Seminole County for comparative purposes, and we're just, by far the lowest millage rate around when you think about a city our size, which it's a good thing for people that want very, very low tax rate, but it's, it becomes problematic if we can't meet the needs of a growing city like we have here in Apopka. So I think, 25 basis points is, I think fair in the position that we're in. So that's all I had.
Commissioner Smith?
Well, I don't think we have much of a choice, considering the state of the condition, not just for the city of Apopka, but for the entire United States. So I'm in favor of supporting the recommendation coming from staff, but I have all confidence that by September, we're going to look a little bit better than what we suspect.
We're all open for you there, Commissioner Smith. We want you to be right. One of the things that Edward didn't bring up, I think it's just something to put in the back of your mind, that this year alone, between the pension liability and the medical pension liability, you want to call it that, that's an extra $15 million that have been put on the books here at the city of Apopka. So $10 million for pension and $5 million for medical. So it's a big number that, you know, you can see when you looked at it's in each of the line items, the benefits, that's, you know, that number continues to rise. And so it's just something we need to be real, you know, careful of as we move forward. Commissioner Bankston?
Yeah, as I brought up in the, in the earlier meeting, a lot of the public doesn't understand, the tourism industry has taken an 84% hit, and that's where a lot of those sales tax dollars have come to us. And so the big challenge that we have tonight is we're being asked to make a decision without all the information. So we've got to give ourselves a fair buffer, because as you said, we can't go higher than this. The last place I want to go is the people's pocket. But, you know, as Commissioner Becker said, if we don't stay viable, and if we get behind a curve, if we have equipment that we're putting off getting, you know, as we talked about this in the meetings, if we get too far, it's going to really be, you know, a devil to pay down the road. So I want us to be making sure that we do give ourselves enough room. We can come down. When do we expect to get the revenue projections from sales tax to even 911 OC fees?
Well, the sales tax number, the Revenue Estimating Council meets on Friday. They're telling us they meet on Friday. So they're scheduled to meet on Friday, and they said that there would be some numbers released as early as next week. But I will tell you, last year was good times, and they were late getting them to us. I hesitate because I feel like they're going to need more time. They're going to want to see, I think, what's coming in the next couple of months, like we are. We're waiting to see I think they're going to tell you that they want a few more months. Now, they also project other revenues, communication services tax. They have other revenues local option gas tax. We'll have those numbers probably a little sooner than some of the other ones, but we're kind of waiting for them. And I know sometimes they'll meet and then they'll have to come back and meet again. So and I think right now is trying times is going to be tough for them to come up with that number. So, but they're saying next week. But as soon as we have those numbers, we'll be able to share them, and that'll let us know exactly where we are, where we gained. I'm hoping that we've been real conservative. We've all been talking about this. I've talked to my colleagues, and a lot of them say they think closer to 22%. We're at 25%. If it's 22%, that's better for us. So that puts us in a better position to work through these numbers. And like Commissioner Becker was saying, and you were talking about too, Commissioner Bengtson, that we're looking at the Orange County numbers. Maybe between now, we have another month's worth of revenue. Some of these revenues will tick up a little bit here or change a little bit. We'll have more EMS billing revenues that we can look at. Maybe we gain a little bit there. As you know, every little bit you gain, 20 here, 50 there, 100,000 here, really can make a big difference. But at the end of the day, the city or the state numbers are what drive the majority of the budget.
And I mean, we all talk about it going in the right direction, but it could also go the wrong direction. I mean, you know, if you'd have told us 3 weeks ago that we would have this spike, whatever you want to call it, you know, which you can go to the restaurants today and you say, wow, the last 3 weeks, they were full 3 weeks ago, they're now back to half empty again. And so what's happened is, it's not only the tourists obviously are way down, but also what's happened is, and as you look forward to the economy, so let's just say that the money goes away from the $600 that they're now getting from the federal government for unemployment. What's happened is the people that live here have shifted from going to restaurants where they pay a sales tax back to Publix and Winn-Dixie where they're paying no sales tax. So you're not only losing a lot of the revenue coming from the tourists, but now you're losing those sales tax that you could be collecting here at home. So, you know, I think 25%'s a good number, but it could go the other way. It could be 30%. So I think we've got to really buffer ourselves for the worst. It's almost like we have to buffer for a hurricane. This could be, you know, and just what if you had both? What if you had, you know, hurricane and it doesn't get better? Then we've really got a serious problem. So, yeah, I think this is a budget. You got to be ultra conservative. You got to really have, you know, because I honestly don't think next year's budget is going to be better. I think at best it's equal. It could be worse. So I think we just want to be real careful how we move forward to this budget year, and we just got to, everywhere we can twist and turn to try to save a nickel. And I can tell you, Edward's the best at it. We're looking at every revenue source we can get that's, not on our taxpayers, but, out there in the marketplace, then we're gonna try to do it. And we're in a great position. I mean, we've leaned out the city. We have done, you think about the overhead, we've probably, in the last year and a half, probably cut close to $1 million and a half in overhead. So we've really leaned out the city. I think we've got, a lot of the employees have stepped up and taken on a position and a half. So the city staff has done a great job, getting us to where we're at. And then, we were looking, as of March, you're sitting there $3 million of the good, and you're thinking, man, we're ready to, really go forward with some pretty cool projects. And then all of a sudden, in 2 months, we've lost $1 million and a quarter, and, we still got 4 months to go. So it's a challenge, and we'll get through it. I just think that we just want to make sure that we're as conservative as we need to be based on, the uncertainty. I mean, it's like a hurricane. If you knew the hurricane, when it's over, you know what you got, but we don't know what we have yet. We don't know where the end is going to be and how fast it comes back. Is it a V-shaped, recovery, or is it a U-shape? And so I just, as much as I can say, we just got to be real, careful with our dollars, because we just don't know what, next year's going to bring.
So the point of the question really is to find out, by the time we have to finish our trim process and set the actual millage rate, will we have a good portion of the information to better make that decision? Or will we still be, again, with everything going on, we will still
You'll
be
have the
somewhat up
best
in the air.
information.
We'll have two
Yes.
more months of numbers, and that's the thing is, because April was the bottom, May bumped off the bottom a little bit. So what does June look like? I think June might be okay. I think July is going to be worse than June. So I don't think we've kind of got that, a real sense. And so I think they're going to wait to the last minute, because they're pretty conservative when they give us numbers. We've pretty much always exceeded the numbers from sales tax based on the state numbers they give us, which is good. So I think they're going to be very conservative with their numbers and make sure that, that we can, hopefully meet those numbers.
But do they have a drop dead date as to when they have to have those numbers to us?
Yes, they have to have them to us in time for our public hearings. So,
1st of September.
right.
First, okay.
And they can change them too along the year. We've seen that before too, where if something happens during the year, as you've seen with the last presentation, with the presentations we've had in the past about sales tax, they can change them, at the last minute. So once they post them, they can make updates to them at any time. And so we monitor those every day. And I will tell you, I click on it probably, I don't know, I'm checking a lot, because I keep telling Jamie, have you seen anything? Is it coming? Have they said anything? Because it's one of those things where you're just like, hey, how far off are we? Or are they thinking, better than we're thinking? Do they have a crystal ball that we don't have? So yeah, we're looking every day. I can promise you, and every day, and Jamie's tired of me asking, I'm sure other people are, can you find a grant for that? Is there anything we can do for this? Can we save here this year and then get it next year? So we're looking at everything. So by then, you should have everything. We'll have sales tax numbers for another couple months, hopefully by September, so we'll know where we are the current year. We'll be able to tell you, when we get to September, this is where we're sitting in the current FY 20-year revenue expenditure-wise. You'll have that number. We'll have these numbers that the state gives us to follow, and then we will be looking at all these other revenues to see if they change between now and September. So in September, you'll have the best information you can have at that moment to make your decision. But the state's pretty good. They'll get them out. They'll get them out before September, because they know we have to set our budgets based on those numbers.
So again, what we're looking at doesn't include any of the wish list, and quite honestly, part of our wish list is mission critical stuff. Things that we really need to do, or it's going to put us behind. So I'm going to lean on the high side of that. We need to make sure we've got enough of a buffer. And that may not sound like how I usually speak, but I just think that's wisdom. We cannot set ourselves up for failure. We can always sharpen our pencils, and we're going to do that. And I believe it will come down. We've got reserves that we thankfully are very healthy now. We are at that 25% mark. And this is the type of year that we need to, but again, not to go crazy, because we always have to make sure we're in I forget how many extra storms are projected this year as well. So we're in that cycle. We have reserves, we have fee base. That's another question I have. Do we have any areas where our fee base is significantly lower than comparable cities around us and we haven't adjusted? And I know we've stayed on the low end on a lot of those things. That's an area, you don't have to answer that off the cuff, but that's an area that over this trim process, we can look and see, are there some areas we need to raise certain fees? Because then it's user
Right.
paid for rather than across the whole taxpayer base. Also,
Commissioner, can I answer something?
Sure,
Can I-
sure.
As you know, we brought recreation fees back, so we've got them kind of in line with our neighbors. There's a couple of our fees in community development, zoning, planning fees. They're a little lower, not much, and they're not going to generate that much revenue. But we're looking at those. We're looking at we've looked at the ambulance fees. All of those fees have been looked at. So we've pretty much looked at most user fees that we've got. There's a few here or there that we could look at. They may generate a little bit, but we're looking at all of those as well.
Okay.
But nothing substantial. So we've looked at everything that's fee-based that we could take that approach on.
I know we're doing that with our sanitation,
Right.
in that department. Grants, seized funds, different things. We need to look at every place that we can try and pull that from. But I guess my question is, with all that we've heard, and everything we've heard in the last few days, is this recommendation, are we setting that high enough to give us enough room to then bring it back down comfortably once we get the rest of these numbers? If we had these numbers, I'd be a lot more comfortable. But without these numbers, and we have to make a decision tonight,
You have to make a decision.
without the numbers that we need to know, is it going to be sufficient? I don't want to put us in a bad place. So that might not be politically comfortable, but we have to be fiscally responsible. So, I'm in agreement with what you have, and my only question is that giving us enough buffer room? Because as you said, Mayor, we expect those numbers to come down, but they could go up.
Yeah, it's such an unknown.
Right.
We're in uncharted territory. You go back to 2008, it wasn't as bad to our city budget as this.
Right, this is worse.
This is the worst.
Yep. So again, we do have some healthy reserves now that we can, and I know that's part of the process we're looking at already, tapping into some of that. But I'm just saying, there's some wish list items that I think are mission critical for a police department, some of the different things, or we're going to get so far behind. And as you said, the next probably 2 years are still going to be rough years. So realistically speaking, so.
Okay. Anybody else? So what do we?
Just one other thing. Do we have any way to show what a millage rate increase, how it affects the average homeowner, property owner?
No, but I can tell you that if you look, I'll go back to this slide where we can look at the slide. So in this scenario right here, currently we're at 4.0376, so you pay $4, a little over $4 for every $1,000 a value that's a taxable value of your home. Yeah, so that's taxable value. That's after all the deductions, off your homestead deductions or anything. You will pay on the whatever the taxable value is, $4, a little over $4 per $1,000 currently. So if you raise it 25.25, that's 25 cents more per $1,000 of your taxable value. If you raise it 50, that's 50 cents per $1,000 value of taxable value. So
our human calculator at the other end there, you probably have these numbers right off. But how does that affect the average person? I think for the taxpayers, to hear any kind of increase always makes it uncomfortable, but they want us to make sure we're not, hurting ourselves as a city. I think if we could have that to be able to present people and for them to be clear, this is a rate that we have to set high so that we can trim it back, which is the trim process.
And we can prepare that and send it to you. I can prepare that and send it to you on the different values, home values from
I think it would
all
be
the way down.
beneficial for the
that and give it
taxpayers
to
to
you
know.
and after you
Just
set.
for homestead exempt properties, or do you want to do non-homestead? Is that?
I would think it's pretty tough to do commercial because they
Yeah.
can.
No,
Yeah,
right.
just
No,
I was thinking exempted, but.
Okay.
Okay, so we can prepare that.
Yeah, just do the average.
it's very-
do the average home value
Yeah.
in Apopka.
Right.
We have access to that, and just
250, what is it?
do a little pro forma on top of that. But really, how it will be portrayed, right, is our current millage is 4.03, right? If we add 25 basis points, it's 6% increase in the rate. If you do 4.5, it's 12%.
So how does it hit the average taxpayer? Is this an extra cup of coffee that they do without? Is this a You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that they can have a mindset and understand that we're all tightening the belt right now, and everyone, that's my other concern, that I don't like seeing taxes raised, because people themselves, we got small businesses, they're feeling the hurt as well, so we don't want to add to that. So we will do our best as a city and yet
Yeah,
set ourselves up for success going forward.
And I don't think it's a politicized thing, right? I mean, if we constantly, whenever we're analyzing stuff, we always benchmark, right? We did that on the salary studies, we're doing it on rec fees, we're doing it on building permit
Sanitation.
fees. We always, that's the natural way of things, is you benchmark what industry is doing. And so if you look at that, Orlando, 6.65, we're at 4.03. Sanford, 7.32, we're at 4.03. You know, Winter Garden's at 4.5, of what we're trying to, what we're discussing here. Winter Park, 4.53. So
And where was Orange County?
Orange County, 4.43. So, you know, we're the lowest by far. I mean, but yet, the non-negotiable should be a city that's beautiful, a city where services are to the expectations of our residents, and just basic stuff. And the past 3 days, we've gone through our budgets. Yeah, there's some quality of life stuff, but all things that we want quality of life stuff to be. These concerts, the symphonies, the stuff that people really get excited about within the city of Apopka. So I don't think, you know, there's a lot of waste in there for us to say, hey, us going to a higher millage is out of bounds. I think it's perfectly in line with what we need, because we do have these needs.
So we're asking you, what you're
So-
recommending to us is that,
Is that what you want?
after all that we've gone through in the last few days, is that where we need to be, or?
Well, I just want to say that if you're looking at wish list items, if you're looking at going above where we are, the recommendation that staff has is maintaining is what you see before you tonight. So the budget that you see that's built tonight is based on using a portion of the reserves and this quarter mil, this 0.25 mil. So if things change between now and September, you know, some of these numbers could go up, revenues could go up, expenditures could go down, but if there's, you know, wishes to add some of those wish list items, then you may need more.
And if I'm not incorrect, what you're suggesting to us already does include dipping into our reserves as well.
Correct.
So it's not like if we do this, we stay where we are, but we still have all those reserves. We're already dipping into some of those. That's the thing that concerns me, because we have some things that I think are mission critical that we need to add to this. So do we need to look higher than?
Commissioner, this is a
0.25?
balance. What you see that staff has brought you is a balance. It's using about half of it, million from the reserves, and it's about 910,000 coming from the 0.25 mil increase. So it's kind of a balance between the two pieces.
I'm comfortable either way, because at the end of the day, I mean, what's going to be on the trim notices is what people are going to react to. They're going to get their trim notice. If we say 4.5, people are going to react. Probably negatively. They're going to say, hey, they're raising our taxes. I get it. They're going to react to it. But the fact of the matter is, if they're people watching what we're doing here right now, we're fully transparent about the process. And the process is, there's some unknowns, to your point, around revenue, there could be even favorability on the other side of the fence, too. There could be expenses that we've budgeted for that will come in lighter than, will perform better. And we could have favorability on that side of the fence, too. So if we set it to a place where we're factoring in the unknowns, we can always bring it back down to center once we did. We did it last year, right? I mean, we proposed a higher trim that we ended up settling on at 4.03, did we not?
Yes.
Or one of the 2 years. So I mean, it's a rinse and repeat kind of thing. We see the need, and so if we protect ourselves, I'm totally fine with that.
So do we need to set this higher and then come down from there?
Mr. Smith?
I'm comfortable where it is, what staff is recommending. And I do realize that there are some things that are on the wish list and that are probably not actually a wish, but are necessities. Yes. But I have a firm belief that by setting it what staff has recommended, that we're going to come in better than what we're predicting, and then we're going to have that wiggle room that we need, that we can go back and then give them those necessities that they need.
As long as we have that buffer, that's my concern.
Okay, are we good with a quarter then? All right,
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, if we do the quarter, what that translates into, if we keep it at 1.9 of what we think the deficit is right now, half of it comes through the quarter mill increase, half of it comes from reserves. That still keeps us north of 23% unassigned as percent of our expenditure. So we're still in the wheelhouse of the comfort level of the council of around 25%.
I agree.
okay. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this one? Okay, we'll close the public hearing, and I need to read the script here. In accordance with the truth and millage trim requirements, the city must set the proposed millage rate and advise the property appraiser of the proposed millage rate, rolled back rate, date, time, and place of tentative budget hearings. The proposed millage rate is 4.2876, which represents a 11.92% increase over the rolled back millage rate of 3.8309. The tentative budget hearing is scheduled for Wednesday, September 9th, 2020, at 5:15 PM in the council chambers. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. You have the
Do we need a
motion?
motion?
Yeah.
So moved.
So moved. Okay.
Second.
Second, we got a motion by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Becker. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right. Next up, Michael, Jim, I want to at least let everybody know, this thing kind of came at us kind of fast and furious. The tourist folks wanted to get their CO on the hotel, and we thought there were some things we needed to adjust in the agreement. And so it was our time, and we were going to make any adjustments that we could make them. So Michael worked overtime, weekends, and as his son's playing baseball, he's out there working hard to get these agreements, 3 different agreements together for tourists. So I think Jim's going to go through them, and then if you got any questions, what we're going to do is, it's kind of an all or none. They're going to have to sign all 3 of them or none of them, so.
Yep.
All right?
Yeah, any questions, I'll refer right to Michael, and then I'll go sit down. Jim Hay, Community Development Director. Yeah, Michael worked diligently with the tourist people in regards to drafting these agreements. I'm going to go through this real quick. The city center, there was basically 2 major agreements. The first one was the agreement for sale and purchase, which was originally done in February of 2016. Then, as we progressed with that agreement, July 22nd, 2016 was when the development agreement was finalized. Unfortunately, these 2 agreements didn't really meet with a lot of the information, and so there was some consternation regarding the sale of some of the property. One of the things that occurred that we did not foresee when this was originally purchased, or was originally put together, was when the property was sold, they could actually bisect different pieces of property in order to make the sales work. To give you, for instance, at the first couple of years, they were supposed to actually buy 2 pieces of property. So what they did, they took the Highland Manor and the parking lot behind it and had 2 different surveys and 2 different purchases. So they were all done with their first portion of the sales and purchase agreement. It is currently 1 piece of property in the property tax records. So the next piece of property they bought was a small building just to the northwest of the Highland Manor that was segmented out. The Starbucks was segmented out. That was the one on the northwest corner, the primary portion of property. And then the Hilton property ended up being 2 pieces of property, one for the Hilton itself and one for like the entrance road wrapping around where the Hilton actually is. So they made multiple purchases, but it wasn't foreseen that they could actually bisect the property, and they just had to produce the survey, and it was in accordance with the development agreement. So that being said, over the course of the few years, obviously the climate has changed in regards to some of the developments, and it was in the best interest of both the city and tourists to actually trim down the agreement, clarify some of the conditions, and make it a little more palatable for the city for the development itself. So as we were going through these agreements, one of the things that we decided we wanted to do was to segment off, or actually make sure that the exhibits matched what was actually out there at this point in time. So Exhibit A was one of the primary sections that we ended up changing. This portion here, let me make sure I have the right thing here. Sorry, a portion north of Main Street, which are these three properties here. They did by the UCF incubator, which we kind of had to do in order to get the turn lane going in for the rest of the project itself. And then the core project area are these properties right in here. This is the property over at 6th Street, where 6th Street actually came out. Used to kind of bisect that, but that's where some of the signage for the city center will end up going. And then so that's these two sections here. And then this portion here is south of 6th Street. That was going to be the multifamily section. So what we did, we ended up taking this portion, these properties here and these properties here out of the main agreement, although they can still work on those, but the city can too. And then this area was established as what we're calling the core area. This is the portion that we have. There's basically 4 properties that still need to be bought, and what this agreement, both of these agreements are basically heading towards is that they have to buy all of those within the next year and a half, approximately 18 months. And that's this portion here. Of course, this was the original portion. It was one big property, and now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 properties. So that's what we're trying to avoid is piece rate work. It's a lot easier to just do one legal description. So Exhibit A is that chart. We've got who owns it right now, how many acres it is, the parcel ID number, and then the map, and then these numbers coincide with the legal descriptions, which are part of Exhibit A. Exhibit B, there really wasn't any change to Exhibit B. That was the pond description. The pond is the pond. Everybody like the fountain, by the way? That's the nice fountain. Exhibit C is let me go back real quick. That's this map here, which we updated that so that it's nice and clean and clear. The 3-digit number coincides with the 3-digit parcel ID number, and you can kind of tell how many acres are each of the properties. Like, for instance, the 6.42 is obviously this portion here. The next map that we updated officially, I think all of you have probably seen this map, is the master plan map, which Taurus actually put this together. We've got an anchor store here, which is actually part of some of the changes that we've got in the agreement, in the development agreement and the sales and purchase. The Hilton Garden Inn is right here. Highland Manor is here. They're still looking at a potential restaurant here. These obviously can change. These are the 2 properties over on the west side of McGee. This is the multifamily. It could probably go down here a little bit more down south of Alabama, which is, there's a lot of relief on that second property on the south side. That'll probably be, we were looking at that as potentially a hiking path or something for that one that goes to a multifamily development. So this is updated. Exhibit E is, I don't have that up here. Exhibit E is the permitted uses under the vested rights from the former downtown development overlay district. That didn't really change. Exhibit F is the development standards and guidelines. This is, I zipped a little bit too fast. This is one portion that when we originally put this package together, there was we did not know that Taurus was working on a major tenant on those northern properties. So what we ended up doing was we do have under the billing orientation, we did put, right now they're all supposed to be facing Main Street or McGee, primarily the primary streets. But on the property that's on the north side, we did add in excluding buildings located on the following north parcels, and those 3 parcels. So those could probably face Main Street, but if your entrance road is off of McGee, you might want to face it McGee also, and then that way the side of the building is facing Monroe instead of the back of the building. So we don't know how that's going to get oriented, but this gives a little bit of flexibility for the development for that, that tenant. And then, so this is one change that, that came in, that was actually just later, early today. And then the same portion here for the building mass. We did put in originally we had a mass limit of 65,000 square feet. In this case, those northern buildings has a mass of 111,000. So we have an indication from that it's going to be a larger box store. So that's F. G is the permitted uses. With this one, again, this is reflecting the mixed-use district downtown. Again, there were no changes in that one. Exhibit H, which is this portion here, this also tags on to the, that northern portion. These were the non-permitted uses. We've got dollar stores, residential care facilities, fast food restaurants, and we actually spelled this out so that it has, we don't want, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, Popeyes, KFC, Chick-fil-A, Taco Bell. Those are the kind of stores that we did not want in our downtown. Tattoo parlors, pawn shops. The ones that are here can obviously stay. If they change hands, if they do it within, I believe it's a 60-day period, they can still stay a fast food. But we don't, those are the kind of things that we did not want anymore in the downtown or in the city center area. But these sections right here, this is where we got a little bit more detail in regards to what we wanted for the reading. And this has to do with the automotive sales service parts and in conjunction with the northern properties. So if we end up having a large anchor store of about 111,000 square feet, most of those larger anchor stores also have automotive gas sales. And they sell oil, or they might have an automotive repair portion like a Costco or a BJ's or something of that nature. So we added those sections in there that reflect only for those northern properties, and I also we added in as shown in Exhibit A and C. A and C, if you recall, is the parcel ID map list along with the legal descriptions, and then the map that also shows those three parcels on the north side. The last item that we updated was the drainage basin. The map, if you've seen the latest or the original agreement, the drainage basin, you could barely read it. This is just a lot more clear, plain and simple. The other primary section that we covered was that the development agreement does provide for financial obligation and payments for the road impact fees and building impact fees to be paid by December 31st, 2020. If they do not pay it, the CO for the hotel would be pulled. So these are kind of imperative because apparently they're already taking reservations for the end of the month, and so these three agreements tie directly into the CO for the hotel. So that's primarily the development agreement.
Any questions for Jim on the developers agreement?
Just a comment real quick.
Sure.
So it's funny, on the lead-in packet page, it talks about Section 12 of the agreement, good faith being deleted. I hope that's not a bad sign of what we're doing here. So I'm not sure what was in that particular section for us to remove it entirely. But the other section I thought was interesting too that was removed is the Highland Manor. So I know that there was some stipulations there when we first entered the agreement talking about if they didn't decide to use Highland Manor, because originally they had no interest in it.
Yes.
And so there was a clause in there that said if they don't want to use it, they would have, I think, 18 months or so on to notify the city before they demoed it or whatever. Mm-hmm. So how do we ensure that if for whatever reason they decided to do that, we have that option still without that clause being in there?
Well, with that one, obviously they've already bought it. That's the biggest part there. They bought it for the $150,000 an acre. It was a gimme on that one. That was a little over a year ago, maybe about a year, and it's getting pretty close to the 18 months. They've already sunk quite a bit of money repairing the siding on it and repairing some of the walls inside. So they've already contributed money. Staff at this point didn't feel that that was worthwhile to change because it's an integral part to the hotel in terms of their access to the lake, to Martin's Pond.
Yeah, they borrowed $2 million against the property.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the other.
And I think before COVID hit, they had, every weekend was booked.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we know the value and all that sort of thing. I just,
Yeah.
and again, I don't remember the exact contract language. So if the language was always after purchase and 18 months after that, but I thought the language was always, if they decide not to use it, we would have 18 months to decide whether or not we wanted to
do
do
it.
something, move it, whatever the case might be.
Yeah, it was
But-
primarily before they actually bought it. They did buy it so that main
Gotcha, okay.
language went away, basically.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah. This is a big opportunity to clean up both of these agreements, and that was what we did not have an opportunity to do, at least this current staff and, of course, the city council, to actually weigh each of these agreements as they compare with each other.
So we still have confidence that there's going to be good faith, even though we don't have a section titled that?
Right now, I would say definitely. Yeah, they've been working actually very good with us, so.
And if I can clarify, that paragraph was really, it was a superfluous paragraph. I'm a big believer in word economy, and that was just words for the sake of words. And the totality of the agreement, that really was an unnecessary paragraph, or what it actually said. I think it was titled good faith, but the substance of the paragraph that was really unnecessary to the
Wasn't
overall to the overall agreement.
Great, okay, thanks.
Any other questions for?
When you were showing the one diagram with the properties that was outlined in red, you made the statement that tourists would still have the opportunity to work on it, and so would the city. Define, what do you mean by work on it?
Well, the main core area, those are the ones that they actually have to buy by December 31st, 2023. The rest of the properties, they actually have an option, although we can also work on these, to buy these by December 31st, 2025. So they have an extra couple years that they can still work on these, but if we come up with a buyer, we can also work on these ourselves. Say, for instance, we had a multifamily tenant that was, or builder that was interested in these properties here. The way the current contract without these being signed is that we would actually sell it to tourists at $150,000 an acre, and then they could go around and sell it to whoever was there for $500,000 an acre. And now, with this current contract, they could buy it for $150,000 an acre, but if somebody came to us, we could sell it for whatever we thought the purchase price should be.
Okay, so that's what you mean by work on it, that we have the option
Yes.
to sell as well. All right.
Yes, sir.
Any questions? Okay. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? Okay, we'll.
That's the first one. Do you want me to do all of these?
No, let's just go, let's do
Okay.
them one at a time.
Cool.
So, like a motion to approve the amended and restated development agreement with Taurus Apopka City Center LLC.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Bankson.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, this, the next one is the, oops, let me find this here. This is the third amendment to the, I always get this wrong. Hold on a second here. Did I keep that up here? Third Amendment to the Agreement for Sale and Purchase. And this one in itself, there's a couple highlights. We did keep the same listing for the Exhibit A, except on this agreement, it's called Schedule A. And then we also had some definitions that we basically kept in, but Michael was kind enough to reword the definition for parcel, and this is the part that we got in trouble with in regards to segmenting off one particular parcel. So right now, the new definition says parcel shall mean collectively or individually, as the context shall require, each portion of the property in whole parts as set forth in Schedule A, which is the subject of notice. So basically, they can only buy the whole parcel, parcel ID, versus subdividing anything and then doing a survey and and then selling it or buying it from the city.
Yeah, like when they carved out Highland Manor, they own about 2 feet off the northern porch, so where all the pictures are taken at Highland Manor are on our property.
Right.
So we had to get that straightened out. So that's basically all that agreement. Any
That's
questions for Jim on that?
pretty much it on that one.
Michael? Okay, all right. Anybody from the public wish to speak on that matter? All right, look for a motion to approve the third amendment to the agreement for sale and purchase of the Apopka City Center.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Becker, second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Next up,
The last
Landscape.
one
Yeah.
is the landscape and maintenance agreement with Taurus Apopka City Center for and the Taurus CD 194 Hotel Investment LP. What this one is actually, in a nutshell, we talked with Taurus, and they will be taking on the maintenance and upkeep of the fountain and all the landscaping on McGee and 6th Avenue, or 6th Street. So, and it's for a 30-year period, and which kind of works because obviously with any hotel, there's a lot of maintenance and ground maintenance, and they just kind of continue on and, branch out for the majority of all the landscaping on McGee, the fountain itself, so we keep that running and looking as good as it does. And then, of course, the 6th Street landscaping, primarily right around where the Hilton is, but we also have a lot of trees going down 6th Street, going all the way to 441. So they will maintain all that, part of the agreement.
All right, any questions for Jim on that one? All right, anybody from the public wish?
We couldn't add the other fountain, the one that's in the pond?
That's stormwater.
Yeah, it's stormwater, and they don't own that. Yeah, that's a good one. That
Well,
would be a good one.
Duke Power is so far behind that we had to steal power from Highland Manor to put the electricity to the pond. They're 3-4 months behind on getting us a power pole out there. So, I called Steve Gunner, just real accommodating, said, hey, yeah, sure, just plug it into our, the back of our restaurant, and we'll figure it out. So that was nice of him to do that for us. And so what's gonna be nice is, as we work on the color scheme, the pond, we're gonna have the folks from Highland Manor come out and learn how to change colors too. So they had a wedding that was, a gold and blue wedding. We'd let them change the colors, and obviously for the holidays, we'd want, our colors up. But, so I thought that should be good. Yeah, so anyway, all right. Look for a motion from the council.
So moved.
Got a Commissioner Smith, and a second by Commissioner Bankson. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you, Jim. Thank you, Michael. Thanks for all your hard work on that. Appreciate it. Ordinance number 2771. Susan.
2771. Ordinance number 2771, an ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, amending the future land use element of the Apopka Comprehensive Plan of the City of Apopka, changing the future land use designation from county rural to city industrial for certain real property located north of East Keene Road and west of Clarcona Road, comprising 4.94 acres more or less, and owned by AED Dewar Nursery 2019 Trust, providing for severability and for an effective date.
Okay, let's see. Any changes? No changes, David. All right. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion from the council.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Becker.
Second.
By Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, ordinance number 2772.
Okay, ordinance number 2772. An ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, changing the zoning from T Transitional District to IL Light Industrial District for certain real property located north of East Keene Road and west of Clarcona Road, comprising 4.94 acres, more or less, and owned by AED Nursery, Dewar Nursery 2019 Trust, providing for severability and for an effective date.
Any changes?
No
No
changes.
changes. Okay, anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? We'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to adopt ordinance number 2772.
So
Got a
moved.
motion by Commissioner Smith,
Second.
second by Commissioner Becker. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, ordinance number 2775.
Ordinance number 2775, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Apopka, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Apopka by amending Part 3 Land Development Code, Article 2, Section 2.4.7, Scheduling of Public Hearing and Public Notification, by amending Part 3, Article 2, Section 2.5.2, Site Development and Plating, by amending Part 3, Article 2, Section 2.5.4, Permits, by amending Part 3, Article 4, Section 4.2.2, Principal Use Table, by amending Part 3, Article 4, Section 4.2.3, Standards Specific to Principal Uses, by amending Part 3, Article 4, Section 4, hold on one second, 4, pardon me, standards specific to accessory uses and structures was 4.3.4. And by amending Part 3, Article 5, Section 5.1.10, vehicle stacking spaces and lanes, by amending Part 3, Article 5, Section 5.6.2, applicability, by amending Part 3, Article 5, Section 5.14.3, utility excavation, trenching, and backfilling, by amending Part 3, Article 5, Section 5.16.5, traffic impact analysis, TIA, by creating Part 3, Article 5, Section 5.17, general development, design, and improvement provisions, by amending Part 3, Article 6, Section 6.7.2, design base, by amending Part 3, Article 6, Section 6.7.4, slopes, by amending Part 3, Article 7, Section 7.1.5, level of service LOS standards, by amending Part 3, Article 8, Section 8.5, nonconforming signs, by amending Part 3, Article 10, Section 10.2.4, exceptions and variations, by amending Part 3, Appendix A, mixed-use Kelly Park interchange, MUKPI, form-based code, paragraph E, review process, providing for codification, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and setting an effective date.
Good job, Susan. Any changes, Jim?
Yes, there was one minor change that was discussed regarding the thresholds for the single-family subdivisions and the pools, and I also put in some wording regarding splash pads as an option for a secondary pool. I don't think we're going to get too many more, above 500, but if we ever did, basically every 500 units, they'd have to provide either a pool or a splash pad. That's something that we would end up discussing with them. Anyway, it worked out with regards to the numbers and things that Commissioner Becker and Commissioner Banks and all of you, basically discussed, so.
All right. Anybody
Thank
from
you.
the public wish to speak on this matter? Okay, if not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to adopt an amended ordinance number 2775.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Bankson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, ordinance number 2758.
Ordinance number 2758, an ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, changing the zoning from T Transitional District to MUESGT, Mixed Use East Shore Gateway District, for certain real property located north of Harmon Road and east of South Binion Road, comprising 19.71 acres, more or less, and owned by Binion Road LLC, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Okay, David?
David Moon, Plan Manager, Community Development Department. The subject site's approximately 19.7 acres along the east side of Binion Road, straddling State Road 429, 414 interchange area. The intent of the owner and developer is to construct an apartment complex at some point in the future. The surrounding area is impacted by growth and development initiated by the new Advent Health Hospital that was constructed a few years ago. The land use, future land use assigned to the property is mixed use. The current zoning is transitional up to 295 apartment units could be constructed on the site. It's likely it'll be less than that. The general character of the area is assigned a mixed-use land use designation. There's an apartment complex off the East Shore under construction at Harmon and Binion. There's single-family homes under construction there in the vistas at Water's Edge. So that's an area where we're experiencing a good rate of growth and development. So the Planning Commission held a public hearing and recommended approval of the assignment of the zoning of the mixed-use East Shore Gateway, and the Development Review Committee also recommends the assignment of the zoning category. Address any questions that City Council may have.
Any questions for David?
That's contingent upon school mitigation agreement, right?
Concurrency, but not
Yeah, concurrency.
capacity enhancement. The school board, approximately 2 weeks ago, basically with a declaration, abandoned the school capacity enhancements because of conflicts between the county charter and House Bill 703 that required payment of fees at the time of a building permit. So because of the conflict of the two, the school board basically agreed to abandon it. And there'll probably be some changes to the school impact fee program that the county is, that's the BCC, that's considering at this time. You'll probably hear more from this, either from planning or the city attorney at some point in the future. So in this case, there are schools that, yes, that are impacted, but they're no longer required to go through the capacity enhancement process. They will have to go through the school concurrency at the time of the development plan and pay school impact fees.
So my point being to make sure that there is that buffer so that they're not overloading a school without taking care of the mitigation that that would create. Okay.
So the statement that's in the packet that says that no development activity shall occur until the developer has attained the school mitigation agreement, we're taking that out?
That's the school concurrency. Remember the school impact analysis occurred in 2 phases. Before it was school capacity enhancement and school concurrency. Capacity enhancement occurred at the rezoning application. That's capacity enhancement. At the time of the site plan application, school concurrency would be required. They no longer have to go through the capacity enhancement process at the rezoning, but they will have to go through school concurrency evaluation at the time of the site plan.
Okay.
So,
Commissioner Becker?
I lost my train of thought there for a second. With this being mixed use, obviously it's not going to be straight apartment product, right?
that's, the representative of the applicant is here. May be able to provide some more information, but I believe it's too early to determine whether they're going to have mixed uses, but in conceptual plan discussion, it's likely going to be straight apartments.
And our code allows for that. I thought we had adjusted our land development code and fixed any idea of using mixed use where you would just be able to do straight residential.
If a property has 25 acres or more, then it's required to have a mix of use. This is less than 25 acres. So they would not be required to have a mix of use on the property, but it would be encouraged.
Okay.
Applicant, you want to come forward? Good, okay. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and look for a motion to approve ordinance number 2758 at first reading and hold over for second reading.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith,
Second.
Second by Commissioner Becker. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Next up, ordinance number 2779.
Ordinance number 2779, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Apopka, Florida, amending Chapter 58, Article 2, Division 2, Section 58.58-67, Fee Schedule, Residential, amending Chapter 58, Article 2, Division 3, Section 58-103, Fee Schedule, Non-Residential, providing for codification, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and setting an effective date.
Thank you. Josh, twice in
Good
1 week,
evening.
man. This is
I know,
impressive.
it's like out of place here. Josh Robinson, Public Services Solid Waste Manager.
If you can try to get that mic as high up as you can there, Josh, they have a hard time hearing you.
Okay, so we're just doing this tonight, right? The rate increase, we're going to cover the rest. All right, so I sense that I'm kind of preaching to the choir here. I mean, y'all obviously understand the sanitation fund's basically in the same place the general fund, only it's not so much a loss of revenues as it's just simply we've absorbed growth over the years and haven't upped the resources. Just to kind of do some of my cowboy math, as you would say, Mayor. You know, we've had a ton of trash takes us about an hour to collect or to process. A truck and a driver costs about $125 an hour. We've added about 5,000 hours a year, or 5,000 tons a year since 2015. And so you do the math, that's 650,000 divided by 17,000 homes divided by 12 months, comes to about $3. Add that to the 17 we're already charging, that puts us right in the middle of the pack there with most of these other communities. If you take out the highest rate there of Miami at $40 and the lowest of us at 17, that average is about $20 a month. And that's really about where we're going to need to get at some point. And so, yeah, in the process, we've basically depleted reserves. We've used all the overtime we got. And, yeah, we're just maxed out. We have one of the lowest rates, just like the millage rate in the regions at 17. Orange County, they'll be looking at a $15 a month increase. That's roughly 7%. That'll bring them to 2042 if they pass that, which they most likely will. And so, yeah, we're recommending a 3% increase to the residential and 6% to the commercial to begin the, increases that are to come. That would bring the residential rate to 1751, still, by far the lowest in the region. So, yeah, we would request to approve the amendment to bring about those rate increases.
Okay, any questions for Josh? All right, anybody from the public wishes to speak on this matter? Okay, we'll close the public hearing, look for a motion to approve ordinance number 2779 at first reading and hold over for a second reading.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Bankson.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Josh.
Yes, sir.
Resolution 2020-12.
Okay. Resolution 2020-12, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Apopka, Florida, amending the budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2019, and ending September 30th, 2020, providing for a budget amendment.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jamie Roberson, Finance Director. This budget amendment before you includes changes in funding and appropriation related to the award of the recycling anti-contamination grant being received by a private source from the Recycling Partnership. This award amount is in the amount of $15,000 with a $15,000 city match, which being utilized from the Sanitation Fund Reserve. So thanks for approving the first reading. This objective is to support residential behavior resulting in improved recycling quality. This project will involve the mailing of information on the city's recycling program, curbside inspections, and tagging of residential recycling carts. Information mailers will be processed internally and outside printing company will be utilized for the production of the cart tags. The city will piggyback off in Orange County's contract with Mid-Atlantic Solid Waste Consultants LLC. So this goes along with what the Apopka Youth Council as well educated. As you saw at the last city council meeting, there's a lot of issues related to Josh's product that he receives. A lot of it gets thrown out. So this grant is hoping that we will educate our citizens on proper recycling practices. So fortunately, we received the $15,000 match, the $15,000 award, and we have to match it with $15,000.
Cool. Any questions for Jamie? Anybody from the public wish to speak? Look for a motion to approve resolution number 2020-12.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith,
Second.
second by Commissioner Becker. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, resolution 2020-13.
Okay, resolution number 2020-13. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Apopka, Florida, assigning the name of a new street to Apopka Springs Avenue, a public right-of-way required to be dedicated to the City of Apopka according to and defined by the Public Kelly Park Development Agreement and located in Section 13, Township 20, Range 27 in Orange County, Florida, providing for an effective date.
All right, David, are you up? This is David Moon Highway, or what is the name of this?
Not tonight. Apopka Springs Avenue is the proposed name for a new public road that is required to be dedicated by the Kelly Park Publics at the time they commence construction, which is proposed to occur here in the very near future. So in preparation of that road dedication, planning staff proposed the name of Apopka Springs Avenue. Now, there's more to it than just coming up with the name. It's a lot harder. It's one of the secrets of community development that most people don't know. It's difficult to come up with a name sometimes. There's a lot of names that are already taken. There's already names that developers or other communities have reserved with the County Emergency Management. You're limited to a certain number of words. It can't sound like another street. So there's a lot that goes into naming a street. So the proposed name is Apopka Springs. When visitors come off of the 429 onto Kelly Park Road, they're going to see the sign that says the Apopka Springs. They're going to know they're in Apopka. Avenue, it's a north-south road. The code requires north-south roads to use avenue plus a few other suffix. So avenue was selected as it meets the definition within the Land Development Code. The intent, based on the Kelly Park Interchange Form-Based Code, is to create a network of streets. This is a concept transportation plan that Pam Richmond came up with for that area. It shows that this road will continue to the south, connect up to McLaughlin Road that is connected to a underpass that will go over to Sadler Road, go all the way over to the new high school on Round Lake Road. Then has the potential to go all the way to the south to connect up with a new road that aligns with Appy Lane. So the resolution is to sign the name of Apopka Springs Avenue.
All right, thank you, David. Anybody from the public wishes to speak on this matter? Okay, we'll ask for a motion to approve resolution number 2020-13.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Bankson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Becker. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, resolution 2020-14.
Okay. Resolution 2020-14, a resolution authorizing execution of an interlocal agreement between the City of Apopka, Florida and Orange County, Florida for federal fiscal year 2021, 2022, and 2023.
Edward?
Mayor, Commissioners, the item that you have before you tonight is an interlocal agreement to carry out some of the community development block grant programs, the Home Investment Partnership Program, Emergency Solutions Grant Program, for the benefit of our citizens here in Apopka. So real quick, it's been a long night, so real quick, we have three choices. Based on our population, we now are eligible from HUD to receive some funding that can be used for these types of programs. The options we have is we can run the program ourselves, and we've been allotted about $300,000 roughly is what the number is. We can enter into an interlocal agreement with Orange County, kind of work with them, our citizens and the city together can apply for these dollars. So this will allow our citizens to apply for these dollars, but they'll be administered through the Orange County program like they do for the whole, with the citizens for unincorporated. What this does is, this method is, it allows us to use their administration, their personnel, their tools, they've already have the agreement set up with HUD, they've already got all the stuff in place. So what this does is, they will receive our dollars for the next 3 years. This is a 3-year, you have to commit for 3 years. They will receive the dollars. We will work with our citizens to encourage them to apply for these types of assistance. Helps with rehabilitation of homes. It helps with lots of programs. There's lots of programs and lots of things that can be done. But this allows us to partner and use those allow our citizens to apply to Orange County for those dollars. Granted, Orange County will make that decision. They will be the one that gets to make that decision, but we get to work with them hand in hand on the people that submit, and then we can submit as a city ourselves if we have a program that we would like to do as well. So these are dollars that are available. They have the resources already in place, so we don't have to add personnel to manage this, and it's a big process, a complicated process. HUD has a lot of paperwork, a lot of stuff, but it does open those dollars up to where our citizens can apply for them for the next 3 years. Now, doing this does prevent us from, we can't do both the CDBG Small Cities program, like we did with the Alonzo Williams Park. If you recall, that was a program that we do that. So for the next 3 years, we'll have to commit to this program and encourage our citizens to apply for these dollars through Orange County. And then at the end of the 3 years, if this has worked for us and we want to continue this program, we can. But you can't do both. So, but we thought this was a great opportunity because there's a lot of dollars that haven't been taken advantage of that can help with this, with affordable housing, help with rehabilitation for some of these homes. We can apply as a city for things to the county for this, and then all of our citizens can apply as well. So that's basically what this agreement does. It allows us to use some of those dollars. I will keep in mind these fiscal years, or their future fiscal years, 21, 22, and 23, based on federal tax year. But I talked to Dr. Jackson and Jamie, and they said we can still apply for this one last time before this kicks in for the CDBG Small Cities grant. We still have the ability to apply for that one more time before we enter into this, if we enter into this. So we're looking at doing that as well. So we're going to take advantage of doing that again. So they say that's going to be tough because we got one recently, so it'll be tough to probably get another one. But it's worth the effort, I think, to apply to see if we can get it before, if your wishes are to go into this program.
What percentage of the funds will Orange County retain as partner with them?
Well, that's one of the issues. They control how they're distributed in this agreement. But our citizens apply just like anybody else applies. The monies, the $300,000 that I said that we would get becomes part of the whole pool. So we're not automatically allotted the $300,000, but our citizens can apply like everybody else, and they the county will give out, based on those dollars, will give out those awards.
But because I think
Based in grants
for
and that.
the Billy Dean building, I think Fox, didn't he get, wasn't it $60,000, his?
Yeah, it was somewhere,
his
there was a fee for that.
To manage it from the,
I think it was.
manage the program for us was $60,000. The federal programs are complicated.
Very difficult to run and administer. County has a great program in place, so.
Yeah.
And we will encourage and help our citizens to apply, and we will be allotted some funding, but I can't guarantee that we'll get. They don't guarantee, but they do look at all the applications, everything that's been filed that's a participant in this program, and then award it out based on the criteria and everything that from people that have applied.
So it's not guaranteed that our citizens will end up using the entire $300,000?
No. When you go in this pool, it's a pool. Everybody apply. We can now apply to get those dollars. Our citizens and us can apply now to get those dollars, and then based on that application process that everybody follows, they will award those dollars.
So on the other side, we could also end up using more than 300,000 since we're in the pool.
You could.
Okay.
If we have a lot of requests compared to everyone else that's in the agreement, we could get more. You know, if we have less, we could get less. But this gives us a tool, at least for those citizens in our community, to be able to apply for this, for these dollars for rehabilitation, for low income. There's a lot of dollars and a lot of programs in here.
Okay, and is there a plan in place for advertising so that our citizens would know that these funds are available?
We work with the county to do that, absolutely. The county has stuff that they give out, so we will have to work to get it out, communicate it to our
Get back
citizens.
on that.
Right.
I think like we could get with our code enforcement without their, if they're looking, they got a, blue tarp on the
Yes.
roof, hey, here, why don't you fill out some paperwork and get it back to us, and so, yeah.
Great.
Well, and I think, Mayor, too, maybe our newsletter, there may be a place
Yeah,
in there we can
yeah.
advertise, here, you can apply to the county.
But I like the idea of working with code enforcement because they know where the problems are. And so if they can inform those citizens that here's an avenue, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that was the question I had. How are we going to get that information to the people that need it? So, good.
All right. Anything, Commissioner Becker? Okay. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? If not, we look for a motion to approve resolution number 2020-14.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Bankson, second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Next up, resolution number 2020-15.
Resolution number 2020-15, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Apopka, Florida, relating to the State Revolving Fund Loan Program, making findings, authorizing the Fourth Amendment to the original loan agreement, revising subsections, establishing repayment dates, providing for severability and an effective date.
Jamie?
Commissioners and Mayor, Jamie Roberson, Finance Director. Before you, you have the final amendment to the SRF wastewater treatment plant construction loan. The purpose of the Fourth Amendment is to adjust the project cost and reduce the semi-annual loan payment for the final loan amount, which includes capitalized interest in the amount of $61,107,249.93. These adjustments are final unless further revisions become necessary as a result of an audit. Attached to your packet is an amortization schedule, which is provided. So this is the final amendment to the loans for the wastewater treatment plant to close the project out so we can proceed forward. Our annual debt services for this construction loan is just over $3.3 million. And don't forget, you have the design loan that we closed out a couple of years ago. That's about $82,000 a year. So this closes out the project.
Okay, any questions for Jamie? Okay. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? Close the public hearing. Looking for a motion to approve resolution number 2020-15.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Becker, second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, city council reports. Commissioner Becker.
I will defer.
Long day.
My brain won't allow me to speak any further.
Commissioner Smith.
I'm good.
You're good. Commissioner, thanks.
My voice won't allow me to speak any further. I will say I'm heading out for some much-needed vacation for my wife and I. And the first meeting in August is our national conference that trying to work and to see if there was a way that could shift an extra week I could make, as I hate to miss anything here, but I do have to be gone. So if there's not other arrangements, I'll miss you all that week. But we'll all be in the thick of it for the rest of the budget
There you go.
process.
All right. Edward?
Yeah, Mayor, I do, one correction, I think we need to go back and, Michael, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we changed, I think we need to have some action taken on the actual date that we're moving for the council meeting in September. So if you could
Go back to that.
move
Okay.
move the second meeting to the
Make a motion
9th.
to move the September 2nd meeting to September 9th at
1:30.
1:30.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith, a second by Commissioner Bankson. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right. Okay. Michael? Anything?
No new updates.
All right, super. All right, real quick, coronavirus, got some maps in there in your packet. It's just amazing what's, what they're giving you or not giving you. If you look at the maps, they tell you about, like in 32703, 645 cases, 715. So they're not even keeping weekly or daily totals. All we're getting is the cumulative numbers. So the numbers, I don't even know what they mean anymore. And as you saw, I guess today in the paper, they had, not only did Orlando Health, but another facility down in Fort Myers that turned in their COVID-19 cases, and they were 100% positive. So they forgot to hand in the ones that were negative, which is, it's beyond me how that's being done. But anyway, I also want to just let you know that we just got, we're expecting a check for $64,000 for it was in Jamie's presentation for COVID. This is the Orange County money that came from the federal government. So we've got another big payroll. We've had, we had 10, firefighters out, and that had COVID, and we had another, gosh, I won't tell you, how many do we have? 23 out, either had it or were quarantined, and so a lot of those dollars will come back. And so what I've asked Jamie and Chief Wylam to do is make sure, because they're the department that was hit the hardest, is the dollars that come back from Orange County. He's had additional overtime because of the COVID people. So I want to make sure those dollars go back to offset the overtime. So show a truer picture of his payroll. The other departments, I know we've had a couple at Parks and Rec, we've had a couple at the police, we've had a couple in solid waste. So it's the rest of the departments, we had a couple in community development. The rest of the departments have been pretty flat. So I just thought at least for the fire department, let's kind of single them out because, they've had such a heavy hit on folks that are out due to the COVID virus. Next up, last but not least, Errol, still working hard at that. We've got a guy coming in from South Florida that's going to kind of talk to us about, it's from the National Golf Foundation, to talk about how to put together a recreation district and funding and all that. So it's coming up, and so it will be on YouTube if you want to listen in. Love to have you. And I got one other quick thing from Pam, two other things. We've installed the road out to the communications tower. Rob was out there. They've got now have where they can bring in the crane to drop the building in and start building the tower. So that's there. We're also, the improvements to Rock Springs Road and Welch Road will begin on July 28th. So we'll have that double turn lane. So that's should make a nice impact on traffic there. And then the last thing was, we got the light at the corner of Sandpiper and Rock Springs Road is up. So we're making progress. So with that, call the meeting adjourned.